Welcome to Up to the Minute. It's Wednesday, July the 8th. Glad to have you with us this morning. Middle of the week. We almost made it through another week right now. Brittany Pacheco, my co-host, is joining me from across town. Good morning, Brittany.
Good morning, Todd. Happy hump day, as they say during this day and age. But really, who cares?
Who cares? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, does it even matter anymore?
It does not. We've probably entered into week 34. No, I think it's like week 16, something along those lines for working from home. It's crazy. I cannot believe that. But we are still continuing with Up to the Minute every day that we are here at HCC remotely. We're very grateful for all of you joining us this morning on this very beautiful Wednesday. Hopefully you can get out and enjoy the weather. Well, maybe not the weather, but the day. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do not forget about our YouTube channel that we have produced thousands of videos from our very own HCCTV and Stafford METV. And be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be the first to find out the latest from HCCTV. And last but certainly not least, be sure to share this podcast so that we can share our information to the masses, but also grow our audience.
You know, Brittany, if you see behind me, are you missing the studio? Because there it is right behind me right here.
Yeah, I do recognize the studio there. If only we were there. I do not miss how cold it is in there, truthfully, Todd. But yeah, it'd be nice to probably go back and just go back into some kind of routine.
Well, sooner rather than later, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Chief Greg Cunningham, it's Wednesdays, and you know, Chief, we hadn't had a chance to visit in a while. It's good to see you again.
Well, it's good to see you as well. I got to play hooky for a week or so and visit with family and whatnot, so it was a great break.
Good to get away, and it's also good to get back to work at times. Chief, thanks for being here. We're going to be with you in just a moment, but we announced a special guest yesterday, and she joins us now, Shar-day Campbell, who is the Strategic Enrollment Manager, Enrollment Services for Communications and Social Media. Good morning, Shar-day, in the house.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. Now, the last time I think we talked, you were just starting your new role, but you used to join us for Financial Aid Fridays when you just worked for the Financial Aid Department. Maybe you can update us on what you're doing now and your new role.
Yes, so financial aid serves students, but it doesn't actually fall under student services, it falls under financial services. So I've moved to student services and handling serving all of the student services departments for their communications needs, which has been quite the undertaking post-pandemic. So I work with a lot of departments, so my hands touch a lot of things.
Well, I know you've been keeping very busy as of late with hosting some specials, which have been live streamed and talking about various topics. But before we get to those, let's talk about your role in financial aid. What exactly falls under the Enrollment Services Department, first off?
So what falls under Enrollment Services is the enrollment department, testing, recruitment, the call center that you call into. All of those services fall under enrollment services. And then from a student service perspective, you have advising, counseling, student life. So I'm touching all of those areas in the current state.
Now, I know Student Life, speaking of, has been very active over the past several months. You got to give those guys a shout out because they've been keeping busy there. But maybe you could just talk about a few of the events that you've had. I know we've had Juneteenth, Pride Month, and Rock the Vote. And all three of those things were supported by Student Life. And you had a chance to help them with social media as well.
Yeah. So the Student Life, don't sleep on it. We are virtual, but we're still having these opportunities to connect, right? So we don't want you to just come to school, look at it as transactional because we're in a virtual environment. They have so many things that they have planned. So we kicked it off with Juneteenth, which was on the cusp of this shift in America where structural racism re-rose to the national consciousness. And we wanted to create a safe space to have those conversations, to learn and unlearn. And we had a couple events leading up during the week of Juneteenth. And right after that, June is also Pride Month. So we also had a guest speaker come in and talked about the intersectionality of Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ movement. You see a lot of overlap in movements for different populations that are fighting for civil rights. So they connected that, and everything that has been, connected to everything that's going on in America. Everyone is just really energized to vote. So we had a party, we dropped some voting facts. We had a DJ Hcc from 97.9 The Box. People learned about how to figure out what's on their sample ballot, when are the deadlines to register to vote, and some voting history.
Well, Shar-day, one of the things I want to let our viewers know is that we get questions all the time in social media. And I know Brittany works on getting the answers to those questions, and she'll send them to you and your boss and the team at Enrollment Services to answer those questions. So folks, if you have questions about financial aid, if you have questions about enrolling in HCC, the virtual information sessions, we're going to get to those in a moment. Now would be the time to comment or post your questions, because we've got Shar-day here. She can help you with those answers, or she can find out for you, and we'll let you know. And then virtual information sessions, we've been talking about those for really the last month or so, and you guys are doing those, I believe, weekly now to help students who are enrolling for the fall.
Yeah, shout out to Up to the Minute and HCCTV for being so clutch and consistently sharing that. Since new students aren't able to get on campus and get their questions answered, we wanted to create dedicated time for people to get their questions answered, and hence birth the virtual information sessions. Our enrollment processes are the same across the college. So we wanted to streamline all of those and give some dedicated time. So if you're a new student, or you have went before trying to figure out how to get restarted, don't know where to start, everyone is going to be in those virtual information sessions, from advising to testing to recruiting, so you can understand what next steps you need to take.
Shar-day, since you've been fielding questions since we've gone into the shutdown and as we're headed towards the fall, what would you say would be the two biggest concerns students have right now, ones that you've been answering over and over again, giving them the same answer?
I think you all have been fielding all of the what's going to happen for fall questions. The biggest questions that I am seeing are, how do I contact certain departments? Like, how do I get in contact with financial aid? How do I get in contact with advising? I need some help with my classes, or do we still have tutoring? It's the support that students want to know, where to access those certain things. So I'm consistently pointing people to the right places on the website, consistently sharing how to access what departments, either whether it's through the virtual lobby or if it's going directly to that department. It's just navigating, how do I get in contact with who I'm trying to talk to?
When this all went down, when we all decided, when it was decided for us that we'd be quarantined, none of us knew it would be this long. But we're reaching out to students in somewhat new ways. But you've always been dealing with social media. You've always tried to stay ahead of the curve and to keep up with social media. Now that seems to me, at least, one of the prime ways that we can reach our audiences. What's your take on that right now?
I say we've been active on social media for a while, but then students are like, we don't have an option to talk to you on campus, so let's look at social media real quick to get our questions answered. My take is, I saw it happen during Hurricane Harvey. Students just rely on social media a whole lot more when they're trying to get quick answers. We've seen the emergence of Facebook groups. And just peer-to-peer sharing information. Hey, I heard this. Did you have the same experience? So we're seeing this organic building of digital communities where students are relying on each other to share information that they may have missed or they may have heard. So that's been the biggest thing that I've seen during this time. And I'm in the Facebook groups. I'm answering those students' questions. I try to just mitigate where maybe they have some misinformation and try to point it back out, because a lot of what happens is what's true for one student isn't true for all.
Right.
And so what students want to know is what's true for me. Tell me what I'm supposed to do.
And a lot of the students' concerns are specific to them. It may not affect other students, and one answer isn't the same answer for everybody. So that's understandable. Let me ask you this about the live streams we've been doing, and I know you've been doing a lot of those as well. How do you think those are in reaching your audience? Are you guys noticing? I noticed the student life live streams, their numbers have been a lot over, and they seem to have a lot of interaction, more than we were getting before we went out working remotely.
I think, we are so large. When you think about 23 campuses across just like the service area, going from the north side to the west side of Houston is a whole thing. You got to plan your life for that, right? So you miss out on a lot of what may be happening at other campuses. So it just broke down that location barrier of everybody can have the same experience at the same time. So the live stream functionality is something I expect or just having virtual events is something I expect well after we get back on campus.
Yeah, we're all looking for those takeaways that when things get to somewhat being normal once again, whenever that'll happen, that we will be doing in the future. And we see a lot more of what we're doing right now. Shar-day, if you can, stick around. We're going to move on and talk to the chief, but then I'll be talking with Brittany in a little while, and I know we'll have some subjects that we can get you to chime in on if you got time.
Good deal.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move on to Chief Greg Cunningham, HCC Police Department Chief. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And it's been a few weeks. We mentioned you had a little bit of a break. It's always good to get a break and come back refreshed to work. But I want to ask you a few things that are going on across the country. Before we went down, we talked about a number of serious subjects, and Shar-day touched on it a little bit about a change in this country that's approaching us. But right now, we're seeing some things happen that are standing out, and you're seeing them in social media, particularly violence and vigilantism. Maybe you can give us your thoughts in what you've been seeing in social media and on the news.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me start by telling Shar-day, a lot of the conversations that she's having with students and those kind of things are absolutely the healthiest thing in the world. You'll notice Houston has kind of done better than some of the other major cities. And I think a lot of it is because we're talking, right? People are allowed to vent and they're allowed to talk about their experiences. And what my concern is that in some other cities, Atlanta, Chicago, and in fact in Maryland, they had some issues where what's beginning to happen is it's becoming gang rule, right? For example, the Christopher Columbus statue in Maryland. I get that may offend somebody, and I'm not sure what the reasons are, but rather than going through a process to have it vetted and removed properly, right? The gang went out there, threw a rope around it, dragged it off its pedestal, and threw it into the harbor. And in Atlanta, what I'm finding are demonstrations, but then there's people with shotguns standing around the demonstration. Again, their motive when you talk to them is honorable, right? We're here to protect our demonstrators. The problem becomes there's a breakdown between trust in the community and the police. This particular guy I heard interviewed said straight up, we don't want the police here. We'll protect our own. I understand the lack of trust, and we need to start mending that as quickly as we can, because the minute you have this guy standing there with a shotgun to protect his demonstrators, and then you get the people that are seeing this from the other perspective showing up, and they want to be armed to protect their demonstrators, it's really a recipe for disaster. And I'm afraid we're on the brink of this becoming really bad.
Chief, I want to move on to another subject, which is something we're living with day to day now, especially in the Houston and the Harris County area, but the situation of COVID-19. I'd like you to talk a bit about, because there's been some discussion, mask, no mask, mask order, no mask order. Do I wear a mask? I don't want to wear a mask. A lot of different opinions out there. What is your take on there about personal responsibility when it comes down to doing basic things like just putting on a mask?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of resistance, and again, a lot of people have different feelings about it. Some of it is based in what they think they know or they do know about science. But I gotta say, to the community, right? We're fixing to come back to school in the fall. Please, wear a mask if masks are required. The issue really becomes, it's not about your personal freedom or the imposition to you and what you want or don't want. It's about the health of everyone around you. Just last week, I had one of my police officers who has been healthy as a horse. Great shape, takes care of himself. But for the 4th of July, he was having some family come to visit. And what he wanted to do was get COVID tested just to make sure he was safe for his family. And I'll be darned, not symptom one, had no signs, and he tested positive for COVID. Wow. So it's not even about, I'm not sick, so I don't need it. Unfortunately, this situation, sometimes people are asymptomatic, right? You don't even know that you're passing COVID and you're passing COVID. So it's about protecting the other people around you and protecting your family and your loved ones. And I get it. I don't like being told what to do any more than anybody else does. But masks are the right solution right now. And all I ask is that you be cooperative. Please do it. I suspect when we get back to school in September that masks will be required. And I'm going to ask all of our community to let's get on board and let's get this done. Let's do it right so that we can get over it and move on. It's a really important piece.
I also read a piece, and I know it's been in the news over the past week or so, especially over the holiday weekend, that I believe around 300 medical or emergency personnel with the fire department and across the police department had tested positive or were quarantining. When you look at an operation like the city of Houston, their police department, their fire department, when you have numbers like that are out, from a management standpoint, how is it trying to do your duty and to protect the city when you've got so many people quarantining or sick from COVID?
Well, and short staffing is really a huge issue. We've been pretty lucky at HCC. We've had a few folks that were COVID positive and of course had to go home for 2 weeks, and then anybody that was near them had to go home. When you begin to look at some of the larger organizations, Houston Fire Department is really struggling right now. They're putting apparatus out of service because they don't have enough people to ride on the trucks. And that impacts the neighborhood, right? If your house is burning and the pumper truck in your neighborhood can't roll, they got to drag one from another area, which means longer response time, etc. So it is a struggle. A lot of different agencies have tried doing A shifts and B shifts so that if they lost their team, they'd only lose half their team. But the reality is most organizations, HCC Police included, I don't have enough people to have half of them go home to keep them safe and have the other, right? You can't perform your functions. The scary part about it is all it takes is one sick person to walk into police headquarters and we can lose half our staff. We need to be aware of this. It's one of the things that we're trying to get in front of with students, because bear in mind, the same thing happens when everybody comes to a class, right? So we're trying to put all of the protections in place. What's saved HCC PD from the cases that we've had is we're wearing masks, we're social distancing, even in our roll calls and our meetings. We're running our roll calls outdoors. Ladies and gentlemen, put on sunscreen, get outdoors. The science is saying COVID doesn't do well outdoors. It doesn't transmit well outdoors. Any activity that you can take outside, get it outside and do it.
Some simple things to follow during some very, these are scary times we're living in right now, Chief, but one way or another, there's always one way or another, we're going to get through this all.
Well, absolutely. And the name of the game here is to just try to have as few people severely impacted as possible, right? You had said that, some of your relatives had COVID, but it was really not a big deal for them, right? They genetically, they were built right to fight it off. Unfortunately, we're not all there, and some people are going to be hit really, really hard with it. So we need to do what we can to make sure that we protect those folks that are vulnerable and take care of them.
Absolutely. Chief Greg Cunningham, good to have you with us on a Wednesday once again. I'm glad you enjoyed your short little break, and welcome back, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
You guys hang in there. It's great talking to you.
Good seeing you. Thanks, Chief.
Bye-bye now.
Shar-day, before we get to Brittany, I want to ask you, because I would imagine that you have a collection of fashionable masks. Do you have some fashionable masks, and what's your go-to mask when you're going somewhere?
Oh man, I'm keeping it real basic. I'm just trying to remember to keep it in the car. Like it's like keys, wallet, mask. I got a face shield too. So it's just some interesting times when you're in the store and the new compliment is like, girl, where did you get that mask from? Yeah. So yeah, we're some interesting times. I appreciate a lot of the sentiments from Chief, and I just want to reiterate that we need to be so intentional about looking at the root and not the response of what's happening in America right now. We're at the intersection of a cultural pandemic and a health pandemic, and people's responses are rooted in an exasperation of hopelessness and not knowing what to do. And the problem with structural racism is it exists in every structure. And so that's why they're like, I'm tearing down this structure. I'm coming for this thing. I'm coming for this thing. It's really hard to choose a focus, even when America's conscious is hyper focused on police brutality at this moment. We still have to look at the root, have those conversations. It was a lot of what we discussed during the Juneteenth events. HCC has said that they are committed to continuing to have these conversations, and we have to keep looking at our systems. We have to keep looking at our function. We have to keep looking at our structures that we are with every day to say, okay, how can we do better here? Where did we miss the mark here? And so I think it's just so vitally important to keep these conversations going, looking at the root, being responsive to the response, but always keeping humanity at the forefront.
You know, and I think you hit the nail on the head with keeping these conversations going. And, you know, you guys did a wonderful job the week leading up of Juneteenth and have the discussion out there. We've had numerous guests on this show talking about the events that have happened over the last month. And, everyone from our talent engagement. Whoops, looks like Shar-day's camera just fell. Everyone from our talent engagement. Are you there, Shar-day?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm hoping it was your camera that fell and you didn't fall.
Yes, it was definitely the camera.
No, but what I was telling you is that we're having those conversations now, and that's it's been enlightening over the past few weeks to see what we've seen, what we've been able to at least bring out in the forefront to have the discussions, and that's what we're going to continue doing on this show and really in our social media for all of our live streams when appropriate. Okay, Shar-day, stick around. We're gonna go over to Brittany and talk a bit about a few things that are going on. Brittany, we were just talking about COVID. Do you have your go-to mask that you wear everywhere?
So I keep one mask in the car. Yeah. And then I carry, I'm throwing it back 90s style with these cute little mini backpacks. And so, because I don't like carrying around purses. So I keep another mask in there just in case I forget to put on the one in the car for whatever reason. So
I can't tell you how many times over the past few weeks I've gotten out of the car, walking into the store, then I'm like, oh man, I forgot my mask, have to turn around, go back out to the car, pick up the mask, because I don't wear it when I'm driving. So I get, so that's like the new normal, I guess, but it's something you have to do and something that I guess we each do our little part.
You should consider, Todd, getting a mini backpack or a satchel or a fanny pack or something. That way you keep it on your person.
We're done. You didn't say fanny pack. Come on now. You think I'm going to walk around with a fanny pack on?
It's coming back in style. You throw it over your shoulder now instead of wearing it around your waist.
Wow. Okay. So we've gone back to the 90s. You've just thrown out the gauntlet, thrown it down. So, wow. Okay. All right. So I'll just bring that mask in by hand and put it on. I'm not going to. Let's talk about COVID testing. Serious subject, though. A lot of need for COVID testing around the city of Houston, and HCC has a testing site that's open today for people.
That's correct, Todd. So HCC Southeast has opened back up once again for COVID testing. This is at our East Side campus, which is at 6815 Rustic. This is happening Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. or until they hit capacity. No appointment is required, but you are going to have to pack a lot of patience to get in line and just wait to be serviced, because as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of people from our community who are going to this same exact location to be tested. We also, I believe, have a couple of other campuses that are also hosting COVID testing websites, but to be sure about that information, head over to the Harris County Public Health website, where you can see all the COVID testing sites for the closest place for you to go to.
The main thing to keep in mind is there's one at Northeast going on this week, and we have confirmation on that. That one is at Caldwell, but you do have to register ahead of time. The difference between the one at the Southeast College is you don't have to register. You can just show up, but they're limited. So keep that in mind once you head on out there. Engineering Academy, we've got several of them here with Houston Community College, but our newest is opening in the fall of 2020 out in Katy.
That's correct, Todd. So if you're interested in enrolling for the inaugural class, which is taking place fall 2020, you have time to apply, which the deadline extension has been set for July 17th. So we're talking a week from Friday. So if you're interested in co-enrolling at both U of H and HCC, and you maybe want to save a little bit on your tuition and fees and participate in smaller class sizes, and you have a passion for engineering, this is the place for you. We're also going to be having Susan Thompson, the STEM program creator, on this show, I believe this Thursday, to talk a little bit more about that engineering academy. So application ends in less than 2 weeks. Apply now and go to hccs.edu/engineering-UH.
Real quickly, the HCC Virtual Convocation is approaching. It's going to happen on Friday, August the 21st. You'll receive an email, or you should have received an email about registration. It happens next Monday through Friday, July 13th through 17th. Register ahead of time, and you can attend the convocation virtually August 21st. And that's, August 21st. It's on a Friday. So, Brittany, you had an announcement about rec sports, I believe you wanted to make?
I did. So rec sports, like the rest of student life, of course, they've been throwing it down with a lot of events virtually going on, and they're having a gamer tournament. So all you gamers out there, I'm looking at you, John, who's my husband. Sorry, I made myself laugh. They're hosting a gaming tournament with Madden 20. So all you sports fans out there who miss football and maybe want to play this game, you can certainly sign up. The deadline is this Friday, July 10th, to sign up. This is happening all next week from the 14th until the 18th. So it's Tuesday into Saturday. Let me pull up the information. If you are interested in registering, be sure to go onto our Facebook page where we have an event created, so you can check out the sign up details there. And on that note, for rec sports, they're also hosting a virtual fitness class, boot camps only. Sorry, Todd, I know how much you love Zumba and missed it, but it's
Zoom.
Zumba on Zoom.
Praise.
Todd secretly is a Zumba Zoomer.
I've never done Zumba. I just want to coin the phrase Zumba on Zoom. I think there's an opportunity here that we're all missing. Shar-day, what do you think?
I'm trying to contain my laughter. I almost had to go on mute.
Zumba on Zoom. It's a hit. We'll get t-shirts made.
I think it's catchy, but I was like, Brittany, I don't know. You may be right. It may be a secret desire for the Zumba, but I'm so sorry, rec sports. I do not sleep on rec sports. I forgot to mention them. Yeah, I need to go ahead and hop on a virtual workout ASAP. So yeah, go to I've seen a couple of the boot camps, and to keep up with rec sports, they are consistently posting on their Instagram account, HCC rec sports, if you're looking for a workout, if you're looking for a game or tournament, they also do workouts that you can follow. So they'll give you a workout of the day. They were giving nutrition tips. Like, they really been trying to keep students, staff, with all the tips they need to be healthy. And now they've moved into like live events. So exciting times. I'm sure they're going to continue it in the fall.
That's one thing we hope for. And I'm going to push for this Zumba on Zoom hashtag. So let's work on that, if we would, please. So if you want to register for the boot camps, Brittany, they can register today by emailing christian.andrews@hccs.edu.
That's correct. It's open to all of our HCC family. Be sure you have your HCCS email handy when emailing christian.andrews@hccs.edu.
All right, so tomorrow on the show, we've got Susan Stangl-Thompson, STEM Program Director. She'll join us to talk about that engineering academy we just told you about, the HCC Engineering Academy. We'll learn all about it tomorrow. And we've got virtual family fun from the East Coast. We've been bringing in live guests from museums around the country on the show. Thursday is no exception. We have a representative from Mount Vernon. So tune in tomorrow for that, and we'll get the inside scoop from what's going on at Mount Vernon. And, Shar-day, I don't know if you've had a chance to see some of the shows in the past, but all these museums across the country, from the Smithsonian, Mount Vernon, Williamsburg, all of them, they've been doing these online activities for the shutdown to engage their audience, but also to educate the public and offer free services that they didn't get a chance to see before.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching it. I saw a friend, Henry, from the Children's Museum. We're a friend in the communications space. And I think, we don't know what fall is going to bring. All of the parents and student parents are like, so am I teaching my student in the fall? So they're looking for supplemental curriculum when kids are at home for a long time. And then just from an adult perspective, I've tuned into like so many webinars and access things, like you said, across the country that you don't have to leave for anymore.
It's, these are interesting times, but, in a way, these are exciting times that we're living in, because I think it's changing the world that we're living in, and we're seeing it change. And it's going to be interesting to see how things, what going forward, when we do get back to some type of normalcy, what we're gonna have as takeaways from all of this, and how we're gonna move forward through this. So these can be exciting times. Shar-day, thanks for being here today. Don't make yourself a stranger. Come back and join us sometime. And we'll have you work with Brittany at the end, and we can get you involved with the announcement. Just pop on in sometimes.
Good deal.
All right. Thanks, Shar-day. And of course, Brittany, thank you for all the updates this morning. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. And be sure, everyone, to like us on our social media. And don't forget about YouTube. And don't forget to share this podcast.
Thanks for being here. Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. live right here on Facebook.